What's up, gang? Enzo here, back with another build video, the third in the series to round out the primary subclasses of Void, Arc, and then now Solar. With this one, we are looking at the Shards of Galanor and the Solar subclass. Shards of Galanor was recently buffed with the Monument of Triumph. Throwing Knife final blows decrease the cooldown of your super. Hitting a single target with most Blade Barrage knives in a volley causes them to release a violent solar explosion. Releasing Scorching Solar Shrapnel. Hits and final blows with Blade Barrage will return super energy after the super ends. So for this build, wasn't really sure where to go with the armor set bonuses. So what I did land on was a 2-piece and a 2-piece. So first 2-piece I have here is the 7th Seraph. Final blows with area of effect damage like ignitions, solar abilities, 7th Seraph weapons, or Aikilos weapons grant Warmind charges. Each stack of your Warmind charges increases your weapons and grenade stat. The other set I'm using is the Exodus Dawn. So when our shields become broken, we collect all nearby orbs of power and ammo bricks. I did this for 2 reasons. First, typically on Solar Hunter, to me anyway, healing or staying alive and healthy is a little more difficult than some of the other subclasses. You know, if we already get hurt enough to where our shields break and there's an orb of power nearby, we can collect it immediately and get a little health bump. So we're going to look at the subclass here, the Gunslinger. Of course, we're using Blade Barrage to go with the Shards of Galanor. And then the abilities, aspects, and fragments, I all chose to basically have some abilities to work with to do some damage to enemies and a little bit of crowd control, but also to kind of keep us healthy. One of the first ones I decided to use the Acrobat's Dodge. When we dodge, we make ourselves radiant. If any of our allies are nearby, they get radiant as well. Using the triple jump as usual. I like to use the knife tricks because they scorch the targets on hit. And then I'm using a healing grenade for a clutch little piece of health when I get low. For aspects, you're using knock them down, of course, because solar supers are enhanced, which means our Blade Barrage is going to launch more projectiles, doing more damage. And also, while radiant, final blows with your equipped throwing knife fully refund your melee energy. The next one we're using is the new aspect Crack Shot. So activating our class ability, not only going to make us radiant, but it's also going to fire up to 3 scorching shots at combatants that we've marked, and landing all 3 shots cure us. So another way to get some health, plus this damage on this will increase when our class stat is 100 or more. For our fragments, we only get 4 here. So the first one I chose Ember of Searing. Defeating scorched targets grants melee energy and creates a fire sprite. Since melee energy is really our only damaging ability aside from our crack shot, we just want to have more uptime on that. And with creating a fire sprite, Ember of Mercy, when we revive an ally, we gain restoration, and picking up a fire sprite will now grant us restoration. The next one with Ember of Ashes, we're going to apply more scorch stacks to targets. So when we throw our knives, we're going to burn them. It's going to add more stacks. Crack Shot's going to scorch and add stacks. And then you'll see with some of our weapons, we're going to be scorching targets as well. And then once we do get an ignition off, they have an increased area of effect. With that, we're going to go take a look at our weapon choice. And if you watch my other builds, you know I like to go in with something for all 3 champions. The first one, I just decided to go, a little bit of ice with the fire. So we got the Lionfish 4FR with Reconstruction and Chill Clip to handle overloads, but also give us a special option to deal out some damage as needed. The next one, you can focus on, I believe it's Arena Ops. It's called the Ringing Nail. And this one in particular has Incandescent in the 3rd slot and Burning Ambition in the 4th slot. So as targets take damage from the weapon, they're going to start scorching, and then when they explode, or when they die, they're going to explode and throw some scorch onto other targets. We just kind of spreading that scorch around, and we get more scorch stacks as well. So finally, with the exotic heavy, I'm going to go ahead and use Dragon's Breath. I do love this, especially with the catalyst, because you fire it and it starts scorching heavily. It'll cause multiple ignitions before it runs out of fuel, but then with the catalyst, weapon replenishes its fuel faster, and defeating targets with the weapon cause them to periodically drop fire sprites. Typically, when it comes to damage phases, you know, we're popping off a Dragon's Breath rocket, shooting our blade barrage, throwing some knives, crack shots, and then we switch to our special and just kind of fire away until we switch back to Dragon's Breath, fire another one, and we got more ignitions going off. And it can really put out some damage. You can switch this out with whatever you like, and I guess it kind of depends on what activity you're running, because you might want something that has requires more precision damage, so you might go with something like Sleeper Simulant, but this is what I'm using for now. It's just because it's a lot of fun. It's kind of a fire and forget. When it comes to our stats, mainly we're looking to focus on melee and get a little extra damage out of that. So here I've used Dim to get me up to 115 for melee. We want our super as high as we can get it. So right here I have it at 160. And then our class ability is also putting out some damage. So we wanted to give that an extra bump as well. Grenade, I just like to have it at least at 70, even though our Seraph armor is going to give us an extra bonus to our grenade stat. When we collect orbs, it's just going to give us a little extra energy towards getting our healing grenade back. And then we also get the bump in weapons. So I wasn't too worried about getting that too high. But for our armor mods, with our super at 160, we've added 2 super fonts. That'll give us a 200 stat. And then we've just thrown on a harmonic siphon to make a couple of orbs here and there. On our arms, giving ourselves a little extra melee stat, so that'll bring us up to 135. When we do get a kill with melee, then we're going to get some orbs as well. And when we do damage with our melee, we're going to get our some class ability back. Chest as usual. Resistance of choice, depending on the activity. And with our legs, we're just giving ourselves a bump in damage with the Solar Weapon Surge, but also the Stasis Weapon Surge for our special ammo. And then I only had 2 points left, so I just put Orbs of Restoration to give myself a little energy whenever I pick up an Orb of Power. And finally, we got our Time Dilation to keep the uptime on the fonts going, a little extra from a class font to get our class stat up to 140, and whenever we do use that, we'll suck up any orbs of power that are nearby. Finally, the last piece of this build, we're going to be using the Queensfoil Censer. First, we have the Kindling Trigger. Radiant causes solar weapons to apply Scorch. So I'm not really sure if this adds to Burning Ambition, if it adds an extra layer of Scorch or what, but I thought it kind of makes sense if I'm using a solar weapon. And I guess if I choose to use something else, then that can always work. Next, we're going to go While Radiant with Torch. Deal increased weapon damage to combatants affected by Strand and Stasis debuffs. So with our chill clip, we might be able to hit something, particularly if we're going to hit a boss and put that frost or that slow on him with the chill clip. There's going to be extra damage coming from our Dragon's Breath as it sets off the ignitions. Next, rapid precision hits with solar weapons grant Radiant, so we're going to be Radiant all the time. The second part of this doesn't really matter much because we're not going to get precision hits with stasis weapons, but we just wanted to keep Radiant up to tie into our Torch artifact. The next, we got the Heart of the Flame. Casting your solar super grants nearby allies Radiant, but it also increases the damage of our super for each nearby ally. Not going to matter too much if we're running solo, but typically if you're running fire team ops, pinnacle ops, arenas, or even raids and dungeons with a team, you're going to get a little extra damage when it comes to boss DPS, so always good to add more and more to help finish off the fight a little sooner than later. Next, we got Creeping Chill. Stasis final blows against slowed or frozen targets. Release a burst that slows combatants and grants frost armors. So this is another layer of survivability as we use our fusion rifle with chill clip on tankier enemies. They're going to get slowed, and then once we kill them, we're going to release that burst, and we're kind of already up in their face anyway, so so we're inside that burst getting a little bit of frost armor to help us survive a little extra. Next we have the Argent Ordnance. Firing a rocket consumes 1 stack of armor charge, granting increased damage and reload speed until you reload or stow your rocket launcher. So I'm not really sure how much this really comes into play, just because typically when we're firing the Dragon's Breath, we're firing it off, switching right off, and then using special ammo to do some more damage. So not really sure if that kind of continues on, you know, with the initial firing of the rocket. It just seemed to make sense since we have a rocket launcher that we're using. And then finally we have Rays of Precision. While we're radiant, solar precision final blows cause combatants to ignite, and that ties into our fragment that we're using to increase the area of effect of solar ignitions. So with that, that's all the build put together. I think we're gonna take it into something here and see how well we can do with it. All right, we're just gonna jump into Master Grasp of Avarice here, just to kind of show off how this build works. Sometimes I wonder what kind of content to go into with these build videos. And, you know, a lot of them, it's not like they can't handle the extreme case, you know, missions or whatever, but yeah, sometimes it's just a good build, want to show off a little bit of what it can do, and no need to do some kind of ultimate conquest or solo whatever, but it's just something to have fun with. What the hell's that guy doing? Just fucking flying through the air. Oh, I missed. Already down.
Guardian down.
Sometimes I'll just come in here with like a strand build early on, just so you can kind of grapple around and get through things a little faster. Suppose you get Eager Edge or Chatterskate or whatever if you want to too. Glad that worked. Oh no. thing, I don't have any orbs. Super's not gonna be that strong. There we go. Oh, there's got some orbs for me. Slow me down a little bit. Now comes the worst part of this whole dungeon. Got a bunch of gear, that's for sure. Some of the best armor in the game, too. I'll be using it in my next build. But yeah, top damage. Not a lot of orbs, though. That's okay. All right. Check it out. Tell me what you think in the comments. Later.